Okay, let's start from the very beginning. So, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today we are going to discuss about the material properties, shear stress, and bearing stresses. So, in starting with the material properties, the first property that we are going to discuss is Poisson's ratio. You people must have already read about this phenomenon. For example, let's suppose we have got this rod as shown in the figure, and if we pull this rod outwards in this with the force F in both the directions, what would happen to this rod? This rod is going to get elongated, or its length is going to get increased with the factor that is known as delta or deformation. ठीक है जनाब? But at the same time, if the rod is getting elongated, it is going to reduce in its cross-sectional dia or its cross-sectional area in the transverse direction as well. So if it is going to get elongated in the longitudinal direction, then the transverse direction is going to get reduced by some specific volume. So the thing is, the mass can neither be made, or it cannot be destroyed. So keeping that in mind, this mass is going to remain intact. But what would happen to it? It would try to elongate in this direction, so it would reduce in the other direction. Similarly, if we talk about the same rod, but now we are going to compress it, so the forces are inwards from both the sides. What would happen to this rod? It is going to reduce in its length, and the new length would be L. So if the new length is L, the older length would be L minus deformation. So the whole deformation is there, but it is going to be lessened from the actual length. And what would happen to the cross-sectional area? The cross-sectional area is going to get increased. So Poisson's ratio is basically the ratio of lateral strain to the longitudinal strain. If we say that there is some specific strain because of this force, there is some specific strain in the lateral direction, that divided by the strain in the longitudinal direction, that is known as what? That is known as Poisson's ratio, and it is denoted by this curly v, or we can also call it as nu, nu. Okay, so now once we know that, uh, like, what is the significance of this Poisson's ratio? So the significance is that each and every material is going to have its unique Poisson's ratio. For example, whenever you are going to compress this material with a specific force, it is going to have the same ratio. The ratio proportion would not change. The Poisson's ratio is not going to change for the same material. Whatever the shape it may have, whatever the case it may have, the Poisson's ratio is going to remain same. And for that reason, it becomes the basic material property of any material. It could be steel, it could be concrete, it could be anything. Now, another thing to remember is that whenever we are having we are trying to elongate this member, now what would happen? The lateral strain is going to reduce. The lateral strain would be having negative sign to it, and that's the reason why you are having nu is equal to minus lateral strain divided by longitudinal strain, because because of this force is trying to elongate this member. So because of the elongation, the lateral strain is going to have negative uh, strain in it, and because of that negative sign, the nu is having this negative sign. Otherwise, this Poisson's ratio is always positive. It is never going to get less than zero, but this negative sign only indicates that this is having a tensile force in it. Are you getting the idea? So because of that, this science convention is only going to represent this minus this tension in the member. Another thing that we must remember is that Poisson's ratio is equal to minus lateral strain divided by axial strain, or is equal to minus strain dash divided by the axial strain or the simple strain. Now, another thing to remember is that in general uh, phenomena, like in general, the Poisson's ratio is generally considered to be 1/4 or 1 by 4 or 0.25, and it is owing to the fact that the normal range for Poisson's ratio is somewhere in between 0.25 to 0.35 for most metals and many other materials. Okay? So for most metals and many other materials, it ranges from 0.25 to 0.35. Okay, but this Poisson's ratio gets reduced in case of concrete. Like for instance, for concrete, we take it to be 0.1, or for a highly flexible concrete, we take it to be 0.2. But as concrete is highly brittle in its nature, and it does not expand in the lateral direction too much, so that's why the Poisson's ratio is lesser for concrete. Similarly, theoretically speaking, the Poisson's ratio for a cork is 0. Sorry, practically speaking. So practically, the Poisson's ratio for a cork is 0. Uh, if you have experienced this cork, it is made of the byproduct of wood, the smaller particles of wood. So all of these are combined into a specific cork that is used for air tightening bottles and other containers, etc. So cork is that substance, and it has 0 Poisson's ratio. Another thing is that Poisson's ratio cannot be practically anything more than 0.5. So 0.5 is the maximum upper limit that is possible for Poisson's ratio. It cannot be more than that. So that's the reason we say that Poisson ratio is in between 0 and 0.5. It must be in between this range. Okay. Now, let's go to another topic, another definition that is going to help us out in the coming definition. So, volumetric strain. What is volumetric strain? It is the strain that an object is undergoing when it is having some forces in all the three directions. So, for instance, let's take this cube in consideration. So, once we are looking into it, what is happening over here? There is a stress that is pulling out this cube in the x direction, there is another in the y direction, and there is another in the z direction. So what would happen to this cube? It is trying to elongate in all of these three directions because of these forces, these stresses on it, on these faces. So in case of this x direction, this sigma x is going to try to elongate it in the x direction. This sigma y is going to do the same in the y direction, and this sigma z is going to do the same in the z direction. Okay, so if we say that this triaxial stress on this whole cube is equal to summation of all of these individual cubes, so it is going to be right. Like we can say that this is equal to sum of all these three. So let's come to the theory that it is saying that consider a material that is subjected to a multi-axial stress and strain. We assume that the material is homogeneous and isotropic and behaves in a linear elastic manner. So by homogeneous, we mean that the whole material is uh, continuous, or it is having the same properties throughout the volume. By isotropic, we mean that the material is having like if we are going to shear the material in one direction, it is going to have the shear strain in the same direction. So and there are some other types of loading as well, which for which we consider that the material is going to behave in the same manner as is idealized, and if it doesn't, it means that it is an anisotropic material and behaves in a linear elastic manner. So linear elastic means that the material has not surpassed the proportional limit and it is within the elastic range. Thus, it is going to have all the strains within those limits. So once you release those stresses, the material is going to bounce back to its original position. When the material, okay, do you have any question? Okay. When the material at a point is subjected to a state of triaxial stresses, as shown in the figure A. So figure A is evident to it that the stresses sigma x, sigma y, and sigma z are being applied on the material. Then these stresses can be related to the normal strains epsilon x, epsilon y, and epsilon z by using the principle of superposition, Poisson's ratio. So if these stresses are producing sigma x, sigma y, sigma z, the strains would be what? Epsilon x, epsilon y, and epsilon z, corresponding to all of these stresses. So if we use the principle of superposition, then how could we combine all of these stresses? So once we go to the next slide, you would see it yourself. So Poisson's ratio is equal to minus epsilon lateral divided by epsilon longitudinal, and Hooke's law as it applies in the uniaxial direction to be epsilon is equal to sigma by E. But just consider and keep both of these formulas in mind, that nu is equal to minus epsilon lateral divided by epsilon longitudinal, and strain is equal to sigma by E. So what would happen? Consider the normal strain of the element in the x direction. Let's suppose we are having this stress sigma x, and there is some strain in this direction that is known to be epsilon x, caused by the separate application of each normal stresses. When sigma x is applied, the element elongates with a strain epsilon x bar, where epsilon x bar is equal to sigma x divided by E. So when this sigma x is applied, there is an elongation in this direction, and because it is the axial elongation in this direction, so that's why it is epsilon is equal to sigma by E. This is simple, and because it is because of the applied load in the same direction. Now what would happen because of the what would happen because of the sigma y? If sigma y is applied, application of sigma y causes element to contract with a strain epsilon x double bar. So let's suppose there is this sigma y in this direction, so it is perpendicular to this direction, but because of this there is going to be some strain in this direction, in the x direction as well. आपका इस्तासो पज़ैन कि दा खबर राजी का ना चे because of the load applied in this direction, da khuba the direction ke bas strain razi, this is longitudinal strain, this is simple strain. So because of this load sigma y, there is going to be another strain in this direction as well. And what would be that strain? It is the lateral strain. Lateral strain bahega na. No, lateral strain formula sada epsilon lateral kadda epsilon longitudinal de taraf da multiply kunu epsilon lateral minus epsilon lateral is equal to nu multiplied by epsilon longitudinal. Nomdak का कार munga wasaro ko. Nu multiplied by epsilon longitudinal. Now epsilon longitudinal pa aga direction kisa de, because sigma y is applied. Now epsilon longitudinal is equal to epsilon y, sigma y divided by E. Padibane wo rasidi kana. If anyone has any doubt over here, I can explain it in any other language as well, if and only I know that language. Okay, let me repeat it again. زه اوس پښتو کې explain کول غواړم ځکه چې probably some of you might not get the idea. ګورئ چې دې ډایرکشن کې مونږه strain کتل غواړو، په کوم ډایرکشن کې؟ x ډایرکشن کې strain کتل غواړو. x डायरेक्शन کې چې strain کله ګورو او load هم په x डायरेक्शन کې راغلی نو دا غي فارمولا څه ده simple axial strain formula the strain is equal to sigma divided by e خو چې کله مونږ په دې ډایرکشن کې لوډ اپلای کو ٹھیک ده wait a minute please خو چې کله مونږ په دې ډایرکشن کې په وای ډایرکشن کې لوډ اپلای کو نو څه چل کیږي نو په دې ډایرکشن کې هم څه سټرین خوشته کنه پوایزونز ریشیو مونږ هم ځکه خو وې چې پوایزونز ریشیو is equal to lateral strain divided by longitudinal strain خو په دې ډایرکشن کې په دې x ډایرکشن کې lateral strain برازي هغه lateral strain is equal to nu multiplied by longitudinal strain او nu مونږ سره شته دی multiply by longitudinal strain په دغه کیس کې sigma y divided by e دی او similarly په دې z ډایرکشن کې هم دغه شانته یو لوډ اپلای شوی دی stress اپلای شوی دی دا غي ویلیو دا sigma z خو because of that sigma z there is going to be a lateral strain in the x direction نو اوس په x direction کې څونه strains رالل total 3 strains رالل په x direction کې because of this load in the same direction because of load in the x direction and because of load in the z direction z direction کې هم دغه فارمولا یوز کیږي epsilon x triple bar is equal to minus nu into sigma z divided by e اوس په دې باندې څوک نه دی رسیدلی anyone who says that I am not understanding the concept here
ٹھیک تھی سر
یا خو ټول پوي دی او یا یوم نه دی پوي
سر جی پوئی یوز کرا
mashallah mashallah okay ji let's proceed then what would be the strain in the x direction we would sum this plus this plus this the summation of all of these are going to represent the strain in x direction so the strain in x direction would be 1 divided by e so we have taken this 1 by e in common so sigma x minus nu into sigma y plus sigma z so this is going to be the strain in x direction similarly if we keep the same formula or the same philosophy in mind we can say that the strain in y direction is going to be this and the strain in the z direction is going to be this much now this is what this is strain in any direction because of stresses in any direction the stresses are being applied in all of the three directions of the volume and the strains can be identified in all of the three directions as well you're getting the idea negative sign would indicate what for application tensile stress is considered a positive quantity and a compressive stress is negative quantity okay this is science convention for this so if we sum this formula and this formula and this formula so summation of all of these strains are going to give you the volumetric strain so the volumetric strain is eventually going to be sigma 1 plus sigma 2 plus sigma 3 multiplied by 1 minus 2 nu divided by e so this is the volumetric strain the strain in the whole volume of this cube which is under stresses of sigma 1 plus sigma 2 and sigma 3 so because of these stresses the volume is going to have this much strain you're getting the idea now why would we find out the volumetric strain let's go and proceed further now bulk modulus once we have this volume that is going to okay let's first read these things out and then we shall Salman the charta jarga ke naaz se I guess okay anyhow when a body is subjected to the identical stress sigma in three mutually perpendicular directions the body undergoes uniform changes in three directions without the distortion of the shape So if there are going to be the same sigma or the same stress in all the directions, the body is not going to deform. Why? Because all the directions are going undergoing the same stresses. So because of those same stresses, there is no deformation in the body. There is no distortion in the body. The ratio of the change in volume to the original volume has been defined as volumetric strain. So what is the definition of volumetric strain? It is the change in volume. Volumetric strain is what? Change in volume divided by original volume. So delta V divided by V is going to be the definition of what? The volumetric strain. So keeping that in mind, let's define the bulk modulus. Bulk modulus is a measure of how resistant to compression a substance is. Bulk modulus is what? The resistivity of the whole substance to compression. How how much you can compress a body. So that would be defined using a bulk modulus K. It is defined as the ratio of very small pressure increase to resulting relative decrease of the volume. So there is going to be a small or minute increase in pressure on the body, because why are we calling it pressure and not stress? Because it is equal in all the directions. So same is the case with pressure. Why would we use pressure word in fluid dynamics? Or a fluid is producing or water is producing pressure in the pipe, because that force or that stress is equal in all the directions. So that's why they are saying that it is defined as the ratio of very small pressure increase to resulting relative decrease of the volume. So if there is going to be, I'm sorry. Okay, Janab. So once we are having a pressure on the object, and if we increase the pressure to a very minimal, what would happen to the volume? The volume is going to reduce to a relative reduction. Like there is going to be a relative reduction in the pressure in the volume as well. In simpler terms, it is the ratio of direct stress to volumetric strain in case of a body subjected to three mutually perpendicular stresses of equal intensity. Okay? In other words, bulk modulus is defined as direct stress or pressure in all the equal directions, all the three directions, divided by the volumetric strain. Let me repeat the K. The definition of bulk modulus, or K, is equal to stress in all the perpendicular directions, all the three directions, divided by the volumetric strain in the body. The strain that we have just discussed over here, this is the volumetric strain. So K is equal to stresses, the triaxial stresses divided by volumetric strain. Now, why would we need bulk modulus? Because whenever we are going to compress a substance, we need to know the compressibility of that material, and that is only expressed with the value of K. The more the K is, the more would be the compressibility or compression resistance of that material would be. Okay. Now, another modulus. Let's go to the shear modulus or the rigidity modulus, as which is defined as G. So the modulus of rigidity is also termed as modulus of transverse elasticity or shearing modulus within the elastic limit of material. So shearing stress is directly proportional to shearing strain, or shearing stress is equal to G into shearing strain gamma. Tau is equal to G into gamma. So this G is known as the modulus of rigidity. ठीक है. Now we have come to know all the three modulus. The Young modulus, that is E is equal to sigma by E, which is the simple axial stress versus strain modulus. This is the bulk modulus, which is triaxial compression divided by volumetric strain. And this is the shearing modulus, or the modulus of rigidity. G is equal to shearing stress divided by shearing strain. Now, why are we so involved in knowing all of these material properties? We want to know that whether, if I know one of these property, can I find any other properties of the material, because these are material properties. And if we are saying that E is constant for a specific material, it means that this E is not going to change whether I'm going to change the cross section of the property of the section of the material, whether I'm going to probably put it in any other sort of stresses. This modulus is never going to change. Similarly, this K modulus is not going to change. This G is not going to change for the same material. So it means that if we know one of these, we can find another of these as well. So these are some empirical formulas. Like for instance, if we know the K modulus or the bulk modulus, we can find out the elastic modulus from this formula, using this formula, 3K into 1 minus 2 into nu. So using this formula, we can get to know the value of E or value of K, or if both of these are known, so we can find out the Poisson's ratio as well. So these are some empirical equations. They are not driven using using the simple mechanics, but rather they are empirical equations, and they have been derived using extensive experimentation. So similarly, this is another formula. You can find out the modulus of elasticity using the two values of K and G. Similarly, over here you can find out G using this formula if you know E and nu. Similarly over here, and so on. Okay. So these are some correlations that could be used to find these things out. Now these are some basic definitions that we already have discussed. Let's go to shear stress. That is the next topic. Now shear stress is what? Shear stress is equal to force per unit area, but the force is basically the shearing stress or shearing force, and the area is going to be the area that is going to resist that shearing stress, and that area must be parallel to the applied force. Because whenever we talk about shear, so shear means that a body is going to get sheared out of a plane, and that shearing plane would be parallel to the applied load. That's why this is known as shear stress. Okay. This is an example. This is a good example, I would say, because we have this steel plate and there is another steel plate. Both of these are joined using a bolt or rivet or whatever you call it. So what would happen if I pull this upper plate in the leftwards direction and the lower plate in the rightwards direction? This plate is going to try to uh, shear this bolt or this rivet in this place. So this is the shearing force. It is trying to cut this force, and the forces are also parallel in this direction. This force is in this direction. So because of this parallel force, this shearing area of this bolt is going to get sheared. This area, this is going to get sheared. Okay. Another possibility is punching. So if you remember, there are a number of cases when we punch holes out of steel or out of paper or out of anything. So if you are holding a pen and a paper in your hand, in the other hand, and you try to punch the paper out of with the help of that pen, so it is trying to shear out the paper. So similar is this case. We are having these supports in both the sides, and this plate is trying to be sheared out of place because of this plate. Now, these are some other examples. Let's suppose we are having a pair of scissors, Kenchi. So Kenchi is trying to do what? You're trying to have applied the force in this direction and the other direction is in this direction. So you cut paper with it, you cut clothes with it, anything. Material is punched. So this is also shearing stress. And this is also shearing stress. For example, we are having a beam that is cantilever in nature. It is having a fixed support over here, and you are trying to apply force in this direction. So what would happen? This probably would undergo shear, and somewhere over here it would try to cut it out itself. The beam is going to try to cut. So this is another example when you are applying a force P in this direction. So what would happen? There is this weak zone in the whole assembly. So this weak zone is going to try to uh, tear out, but it is also going to have some resistances as well. So yeah, shear force. When is shear force positive? So shear force is positive when you are having a clockwise couple made out of it, and if there is a anti-clockwise couple made out of it, then it is going to be a negative shear. Some of the other examples as well, in case of beams, if you see over here, this is a simply supported beam. This beam is having flexural cracks in the middle of the beam, but somewhere near the supports there is going to be a shear force or shearing failure in the beam, and it would be at an angle of 45-degree from the edge of the support towards the applied load. Probably in this case it is the applied load position, but in other cases it might not be that. Okay, this is also another example of the shear forces. So this shear force is at 45-degree angle from the support, originating from the support. So it is trying to uh, shear this beam out. Similarly, you see over here there is a shearing force. Similarly over here. So all of these cases over here, you can see a bridge that has undergone shearing failure. So shearing failure is also possible in case of abutments in which your abutment is supporting the edge of those beams on which your deck is lying. But in some cases, it can happen that the shearing that the support area somewhere in the supporting area of the beam and the abutment, this beam can shear somehow like that. So yeah, this is also a shearing failure. Similarly over here, so you can see a number of possibilities in which shearing stress can be disastrous for the members. Let's suppose and find out the solution to this very simple problem. What force is required? So your F force is known, like it is unknown, sorry. You need to find it out. To punch a 20 mm diameter hole in a plate that is 25 thick. So you have got a diameter of 20 mm that needs to be punched out of this plate, and the thickness of that plate is how much? 25 mm. The shear strength is 350 meganewton per square meter. You already know the shearing strength or shearing stress. Okay, so shearing stress or strength is equal to T divided by or V divided by area. You know the area. How much is the area? Area is pi into D into T. So pi is 3.14 multiplied by diameter is equal to 20 multiplied by 25. So this is going to be your area. Okay, let's go over here. So V is equal to tau into A. So your area is pi into D into T multiplied by tau. So tau is equal to 350. What you get? So you get 549,778.7 Newton, or converting it into kilonewton. ठीक है, so this is simple. Let's see another problem. A hole is to be punched out of a plate having a shearing strength of 40 ksi. जी
सर ये पीछे जो आपने एरिया वो किया है
जी
5
जी
into 20 into 20
जी जी
नोटिस कर लिया सर
अच्छा
ये
दिस
जो
इज
पीछे
सिंपल
एरिया है 5 into
ठीक है सिंपली आपके पास जो इसका जो सरकमफेरेंस है वो क्या होगा सरकमफेरेंस
pi
ऑफ
d
दिस होल 2 पाई आर होता है या पाई डी होता है 2 पाई आर आपको याद होगा ना हमने जब वो छोटे होते थे हम एफएससी में होते थे तो तब हमें याद होता है हम कहते थे
pi d
सरकमफेरेंस क्या है हाँ हम उसमें सरकमफेरेंस करते थे तो हम कहते हैं 2 पाई आर है नहीं?
ठीक है
हाँ या 2 पाई आर है या पाई डी है दोनों एक ही चीज है सो द सरकमफेरेंस इज
जी जी
pi d and multiply it with the thickness of the plate. So the surface that is going to be sheared out is how much? It is going to be this whole circumference multiplied by the thickness of this plate. So ये सारा एरिया जो हाईलाइटेड आपको यहाँ पे नजर आ रहा है ना इस जगह पे या इस जगह पे ये सारा हमने काटना है ना वी हैव टू शेयर इट आउट सो शेयरिंग एरिया हम ऐसे निकालेंगे ठीक है
ठीक clear
अच्छा A hole is to be punched out of अच्छा मैं दोबारा लिंक शेयर करता हूँ क्योंकि लेस देन अ मिनट है तो ये फिर एक्सप्लेन नहीं हो पाएगा